Chazak Baruch. Thank you, Rabbi Yitzi David. That was incredible. What a treat to have you all the way from England. And I know that you brought so much of your expertise in working with all the young couples that you do with Chazak in London to the table. And I could sense how deeply you meant each and every word that you said. And I can imagine that each one of those words is coming from a specific case and a specific story that you've dealt with. Thank you for giving us such beautiful chizuk on this day. I was asked again to mention if anyone would like to sponsor any more of the classes, please let us know at info@ejsny.org. If anyone would like to buy the tickets for the $25,000 raffle to support the synagogue here, $25,000 at David Rudy Jewelry or a Rolex watch. It's all going to support all the Torah and Tefillah and the Bet Knesset. You can do that on bit.ly/Safra Shul NJ raffle. I got it right this time. Okay. Meanwhile, some random email website is getting lots of pings. People trying to buy raffle tickets. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Let's begin. My topic today is called The Good Fight. And that sounds like a little bit of an anomaly. It sounds like something that doesn't really make sense. In fact, the overall title for today was called Fighting. I'm sure many people have no idea what this title means, but the idea is that we are out to fight against fighting today. It's a difficult thing when you watch the conflict in Israel and you don't know what's going on the ground. You don't realize that what the soldiers are doing, what Tzahal is actually doing, the IDF, is not fighting, but rather it is the title of our classes today. They are fighting. They're trying to get people to stop fighting with Am Yisrael. And we decided that the theme of the overall topic over here would be specifically this idea, diffusing, taking the bite out, trying to eliminate this concept of machloket and fighting, because it is a poison. It is a poison on a national level, on a family level, on a spouse level, parent-child, child-parent, friends between friends, different types of communities fighting with one another. It's the reason why the Beit HaMikdash is not here. It's the reason why we're about to start this 3-week process. So my friends, I wanted to take perhaps an alternate look at the good fight. And let's begin. I want to start by quoting to the Mishnah and Ta'anit. Mishnah says, very famous, Chamisha devarim eru et avotenu. 5 things happened to our forefathers. B'shiva'asar b'Tammuz. What happened on this day, on the 17th day of Tammuz? Nishtaberu haluchot. The luchot were destroyed. Moshe Rabbeinu came down. He saw the Jewish people sinning with the egel, correct? And he could not bear to bring them the luchot while they had a golden calf. So acting on his own initiative, as Rabbi Abrahimov said so beautifully, he took the luchot in his hands and he cast them to the earth and he broke them into smithereens. So the first moment, if you will, illustrating that this day was going to be a difficult day, was nishtaberu haluchot. The second idea is ubatel tamid. There came a time when the Jewish people were bringing the korban tamid in the Beit HaMikdash, and they were unable to bring it anymore because when they lowered the money over the wall to be able to get the gift, to be able to get the animal back during the siege to destroy the temple, they, instead of sending back over a sheep like they normally would, they sent back over a pig. They had no korban. They felt terrible. The korban that happened every single day, every morning, every evening, was for the first time disrupted. So Rabbi Rosenblum brings, in the name of the Emunat Techa, he says, interesting, the parasha that we're reading this week is Parashat Pinchas. Almost always falls out now. And he says it's so fascinating because the pasuk of the Korban Tamid is in this week's parasha. And not only that, if you look in the parasha and you count how many times it says the word Tamid in Parashat Pinchas, you'll see that it says the word Tamid 17 times. On the 17th day, the Korban Tamid was eliminated, was taken away from us. The most famous is that the walls were broken through. They managed to enter into Yerushalayim, and that was obviously the beginning of the end. Once the soldiers got through, they were murdering people in the streets. There were rivers of blood. It was only a matter of time before the Beit HaMikdash would be destroyed. But right here is where the battle was lost. The Saraf Apostemos Torah, Apostemos burned the Torah publicly. It was a time of tremendous sadness for the Jewish people. And finally, and he put an idol in the temple. There's two opinions as to who put this idol in the temple. One opinion is it was Apostamos. The other opinion was that was Menashe. That was one of the Jewish kings that wanted to get the Jewish people to worship idols. Now, my friends, I'd like to point out a couple of things here. Does anyone here know in Hebrew language what the word ir'u or era or me'ora means? Chamisha devarim, 5 things. I'm sure the rabbis will appreciate this. Ir'u et avotenu. What does that word ir'u mean? Happened to. Me'ora means an occasion, an occurrence, a happening. It's a very strange word. You know why? Because not every one of the 5 things, and let's remember them, I just want to drill them into your brain, because it is very important to understand the 5 things that happened on this day. One more time, the luchot were broken at the foot by the Egel. The Tamid was annulled. The city was broken into. Apostamos burned the Torah. And He'emid Tselem Ba'echal. One opinion is Apostamos. Other opinion was it was Menashe. Now, at least, according to the second opinion, that it was Menashe, a Jewish king, and at least the first one, which is the breaking of the Luchot, those are not things that happened to us. Let me give you an example. Let's say I go to the store right now, kind of hungry, getting right on that border of hungry and hangry, right? You know those moments, right? You lose your patience. Go to the store. Imagine I asked them if they have any more spinalis steak. Happened recently. They say no. I punched the waitress right in the face. I don't do that because I'm showing them to give. Whatever. Yep. Punch her right in the face. Come back home. Tell my wife, you don't know what happened to me. I punched her in the face. That's not what happened to you. That's what happened by you. It didn't happen to you. You punched someone. You did something. The Luchot didn't break by themselves in isolation. The Luchot broke because the Jewish people built a golden calf. And Moshe at that point, he had to break the Luchot. That wasn't something that happened to us. That's something we did. Menashe brought an idol into the temple. That's not something that happened to the Jewish people. That was something that a Jew did. So what is this idea, ir'u et avotenu, happened to our forefathers? I want to share something that I think is, I think it's powerful and it's transformative. One of the things I like to teach about a lot is the power of the human mind. And what I mean by that is not just that a person has, can think of great things and can come up with great solutions, but rather the power that the human mind has to create realities. By the way, even when they don't exist. Right? Did you ever get very insulted from someone and then realize they weren't talking to you? So 1 second before you were fuming, I can't believe this, you're already concocting stories about why they're doing it, what could they hope to gain from this, and then you realize you're talking to the person behind you. And that, no? Happened? Ever happened where in your brain you thought something terrible was happening? The other day, I was standing behind someone, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, the rat! Because I saw this shadow moving across the bottom of the floor. Meanwhile, it was just the guy's head who was walking in front of me. But in the second that you thought it was a rat, physically, there's a change that happens to your body. You get like goosebumps. You're like already running. Turns out, what was it? Nothing. But the power of the brain is such that in that second that you think it's a rat, you're already on the counter. You're already calling your husband. You're already calling your father. Come, there's a big bug. What is it? It's not a bug, it's a sticker. Crazy thing is that what has to happen in order for me to be okay? I don't need to call an exterminator after I think that there's a rat that I find out that there isn't. What do I need to do? Nothing. The fact that my brain now recognizes what's actually going on, that's enough. Is this clear? Someone blamed you for something, and you're very angry. And then you realize they were talking to the person sitting behind you. It's so many examples of this. They don't need to apologize, because the moment you come to that recognition, your reality changes. That's the power of the transformation of perspective. So my friends, I want to share with you something that I think changes the way we think about this. And in the second we actually get our brain to understand this, everything changes. So the other day I was driving. I went to Park Avenue Synagogue. I'm pulling out of Park Avenue Synagogue, and the car's going boom, 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 boom. I didn't have a song like that on the radio, so that wasn't, I was listening to trap music, that was not what was going on. So I realized there had to be something else. Turns out I have a flat tire, but not like just a flat tire. When there's zero air in the tire whatsoever. So you're literally riding on the rim, and it's boom, boom, boom each time. Get out of the car, I can't believe it. I can't even drag the car somewhere. It's July 4th. What am I going to do? So I find out that there's a great number for Chaverim. Chaverim at the Jersey Shore. You guys should all go there. Go check it out. Don't spend money getting someone to tow your car, doing, someone to jack you up to your battery. They'll come, they'll do it for free, happy with a smile. I was beautiful. The guy came, he was there within 2 or 3 minutes, and his son was the one that came down, got down and started helping to fix the tire. Crazy. Little kid. Amazing. Listen to this. Plugs the tire, but I don't know, again, I'm not such an expert in these things, but there's a big difference between a hole in your tire if it's on the top or if it's in the side. If you have a hole in your tire on the top, in other words, on the part of the tire that goes on the road, you're okay. But a hole in the sidewall is very dangerous. And even after you plug it, you cannot expect that that plug is going to stay and that your tire is going to stay inflated. The guy told me, I could try to plug it. The big hole, all the air came out. Try to plug it. But after I plug it, when I plug it, you're going to have to go drive directly to a place where they can change a tire. It's July 4th, so I had to go to 17 places till I found the place that was open to change, to change the tire. But he told me you have to drive straight to, and that's what I did. My friends, I think that tire is an incredible metaphor to the nature of broken things. Because that's really what this day is all about. It's about broken things, broken walls. It's about broken tablets. It's about broken consistency. It's about broken service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The crazy thing about a break is that actually not all breaks are bad. Not every time that something is broken is that a negative thing. There are times when something breaks and it's incredibly positive. With one condition. You plug the tire, great, I can now drive and go get it fixed. But what did the patch do? It allowed me to go to a place to get a tire that would be okay. You know what would have happened if I didn't listen to this man's advice? I'd be driving on the highway, Barminan, at 70 miles an hour. And if you get a blowout when you're driving 70 or 80 miles an hour, has v'shalom, it could result in an accident that will take the person's life. So the fact that it blew out in that way, the fact that I got to see it when I was parked in a synagogue was an amazing thing. You know why? Because at a speed of 0 miles an hour, you know what happens to you if you get a puncture in your tire? Nothing. Annoying a little bit. You gotta go get it fixed. But you know what the worst scenario would have been? That my tire did not puncture in the synagogue of Park Avenue. The worst thing is if I'm driving on the highway at 70 miles an hour and it got really, really, really thin, the rubber. And it got almost to breaking point, but it didn't break. That's the worst. Breaking point is dangerous. Broken often actually offers us opportunities to be able to change something and to change something for the better. That brokenness in the synagogue parking lot was a beautiful thing. Now, you could look at that. I'm sure many people, if you got a flat tire at a synagogue, what would you say? What are you doing, God? I came to pray, and this is how you reward me. And Hashem's like, I can't win. He was supposed to die on the highway. He went to shul, and I rewarded him, and I gave it to him in the parking lot. And now he's here complaining to me that I broke his tire in the synagogue. How I can't win. And all the angels are like, I know, God, it's the worst being you. I don't know, I just have this imagination in my head, like there's all these angels around Hashem and his conversations. They all have to laugh at his jokes. I kind of feel like Hashem's like, it's funny. They're like, eh. He's like, I'm God. If I say it's funny, it's funny. They're like, yeah, you're right. Emet v'yasiv. Okay. My friends, through this perspective, that fights are not always bad. That broken things are not always negative. I want to take a new look at this Shiva Asar Tammuz day to understand perhaps what is really going on. You know, if you have a couple or siblings that are fighting, people tell me, Rabbi, you don't know, it's so bad. Yelling at each other, it's horrible. Can't believe it. Disaster. Worst thing ever. And you know what I always say? No. If they're still yelling, it's not the worst thing ever. If they're screaming and they're angry, it's not the worst thing ever. You know why? Because they're still here. Worst thing ever is when they're not talking at all. At that point, there's nothing to fix. So having a scenario where you have something, but it is broken, allows me to be able to recognize the flaws in something beautiful early enough to be able to fix what I have in my hands. And sometimes I wish in fights that break out, we had one fight. That was the fight that got us to break up. You know what would have fixed that? More fights. You waited too long to fight. You pushed off every disagreement. There was no place to hear what someone else was going through. And I think that there's something magnificent in the fact that this day that begins with the breaking of the luchot. What do Jews do with the broken luchot? We don't throw them out. We don't recycle them in the green bin. We put them in the aron, in the gold aron, the box that sits in the Kodesh Kodashim. And you know what makes those shivrei luchot holy enough to be sustained and kept in the holiest of places? It is that they are broken. It was in breaking the luchot, in waking the Jews up and showing them that this thing which is called a ketubah, a relationship document between you and Hashem, it's torn, it's broken. That's what woke the Jews up to what they had done. The broken luchot created a reality within which Moshe Rabbeinu was able to destroy the Egel. I always thought this. Moshe Rabbeinu comes, takes the Egel, breaks it up. I kind of feel like if a lot of people thought that the golden calf was their God, and Moshe tried to break it, like they probably would have stopped him. So we don't read about Moshe taking his staff, Donatello, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, getting everyone out of the way. You don't hear about that. There's no fight. Moshe comes back, destroys the temple, destroys the Egel. You know why? Because in the broken Luchot was the wake-up call, was the siren that made them see what they had done. My friends, I want to share with you something fascinating. Don't know when I started. When do I have till? Thank you so much. You might want to consult with the person who's supposed to speak after me. 8:54 will be a disaster for him. I think I started speaking at 5 too. Okay, I'm not sure though. Sorry? 52. Perfect. Okay, thank you. See, fighting is good. No, I'm joking. I want to share with you something that I noticed that is incredible. The numerical value, the gematria of the word shavur, something which is broken, is 508. And what is fascinating to me is that in this concept, shavur, which is the gematria of 508, is the same numerical value as the word heresh, which means that someone is deaf and they cannot hear. What causes something to get to a point that it breaks? Where my complaining, where my suggestions, where my requests, where my begging is not heard. And at that point, something has to give. And if I've used up the patience that I have, then what happens? There's no more patience dollars in the account. There's no more, what did Rabbi Hadjioff call it? There's no more, I forget the exact term he used. There's no more dollars in the reconciliation account. So what pays for this? The relationship pays for it. When a person is deaf and they are not hearing, then something doesn't get strained. It gets strained to the point of a break. But what is beautiful as well is that in the word shavur, which is the gematria 508, we find also echoes of the gematria, the numerical value of the word salahti, which means that I forgive. Those stages, cheresh, shavur, salahti, that is the process through which we go through these difficult conflict resolutions. Like the pasuk says, lev nishbar v'nitke, when a heart is broken and battered, Elohim lo tivzeh, God he doesn't abuse, he doesn't embarrass it, he doesn't put it aside, he listens to it. And you know why I always used to think? This is just me, I'm a visual person. You know what lev nishbar Elohim lo tivzeh means? It means that there are some people whose pain and anger and anguish and hopes and dreams and complaints are in their heart. And they don't find a way to express them. Partially because the people they're trying to express them to can't understand them. So in one fell swoop, when the heart breaks, nishbar, Elohim lo tivzeh, who hears all those complaints that pour instantaneously out of the cracked wall of a person's heart? Hashem hears them. Elohim lo tivzeh. I think to myself often that idea, that feeling is the feeling that Hashem was asking us for. Hashem said to the Jewish people, you didn't do a sin. You broke our relationship. Broke the luchot. I want you to understand this. You're not getting me clearly if you don't recognize, as Hashem says. You're worried about pulling the money over the wall and getting the sheep back over the wall. So you think that you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to break the korban. The word korban means closeness. Hashem said you're missing the point. You know what it's like? Imagine for a minute. Just imagine for 1 second. A person is held hostage. And he hears the kidnapper on the phone. The kidnapper is his first kidnapping job. He's not really good at it. He makes a phone call and he says, "We will release the prisoner for the price of $5. Anyway, the prisoner reaches in his pocket. He has $5. And he turns to the fellow and he says, "Listen, while we're waiting to see if they'll redeem me, I'm really would you mind getting me a Coke?" Could you imagine a person doing that? Moron. You have the $5. Give him the $5, he'll let you go. Why give him the $5 for a Coke to stay here? Sounds insane, right? But that's what the Jews were doing. Gold over the wall so that I have a sheep in this broken scenario where we have a siege around us. But I'm going to figure out, I'm going to keep doing this mitzvah in the temple. And Hashem is saying, you're not getting it. Our closeness is broken. If I want to save you, I could save you. Don't give the money to the Romans and wait till they give you a pig. Instead, give that money to tzedakah. Instead, take care of the poor. Instead, take the machloket you're fighting over some guy with for $5 and use this $5 that you're trying to get a korban with. Use it for that. Figure out how to print signs that say hashtag anti-sinat chinam. You figure out how to solve the problem. You're not recognizing. So what is broken here? In every fight lies an opportunity. In every scream, in every pointed finger lies a chance to be able to combat the heresh, the deafness that is allowing this thing to remain broken, and to transform and to shift that instead into salachti, I have forgiven. When you see a Sefer Torah being burned by apostamos, what should you ask yourself? Not, oh no, the Torah is being burnt. But a deeper question. In the hands of Borei Olam, that could cause this person in 1 second, who's trying to burn the Torah, to freeze into some sort of paralysis and not be able to walk one step forward. What is God telling me? He's asking me, if I saw this, are you burning Torah? Are you taking the mitzvot? Are you ripping them up? Are you ignoring Lashon Hara? You know you're not supposed to speak, you do it anyway. Are you ignoring the laws of proper business commerce? Are you doing that? If you're doing that, then that can be done. Each one of these messages is communicating this brokenness to us. I got a phone call only today. And in this phone call, I think I was able to understand and to see this narrative that God is saying. Korban, closeness is broken. Shivrei Luchot, the marriage contract is broken. You know, the Tamid, the Sefer Torah, the way of acting, integrity is broken. Authenticity, Misorah is broken. Finally, we get to a stage where what's broken? The actual whole religion. You've replaced God for an idol in the temple. This idea that as things break, they break worse. My friends, it's offering us a chance on Shiva Asar Tammuz, but it's also teaching us not just that we could fix what is broken between us and Hashem, but it's also communicating that what is broken between us and Hashem is always mirrored in what is broken between us and our fellow man. See, some people have an understanding that there's our relationship with God and our relationship with man, and those are two different things. But actually, our Chachamim tell us the opposite is true. That the function of our relationship between us and our fellow man, between us and our wives, our husbands, our children, is a relationship between us and God. And that's why it says, if you want to know, says the Mishnah and Avot, if someone is beloved in heaven, you know what you need to do? Check if he's beloved here on earth. What does that mean? That means that if his man-to-man relationships are good, then his man-to-God relationships are good. You know what happens when there's a hole in the wall and the soldiers are coming through? You know what happens when there's a hole? All the people rush to the hole to be able to hold that break, to not let them through the breach in the wall. My friends, in that second, right then, in that second, you know what happened? People came together. When we unite because of anti-Semitic attacks, when we are forced to defend Israel's name, we are forced to defend, we're forced to come together, forced to fix problems in the community that we cannot let. What is Hashem doing? He's breaking the wall so that as humans we come back together to plug the hole in the wall. He's taking the korban away because God says, I don't need your animals. You know, everyone reads that line from the Navi. Hashem says in destroying the temple, Amali, what do I need? Zivchechem, I don't need your korbanot. I don't need it. You know why? Because you brought me korbanot, upiv and vipiv and your mouth, usfatav and your lips and your heart. Rachok mimeni is far from me. Your heart and your lips is far from me. So what did God do? There's two parts to the korban, the sacrifice and the heart. So if we messed up the heart part, what does God do? He turns the volume off on the sacrifice part. And then what are we left with? Al Chachamim tell us. What are the korbanot? Instead of the korbanot, what do we have today? We have the tefillot. Hashem says the tefillah, the heart, the lips were missing. You honor me with your lips, but your heart was far from me. Hashem says, okay, no problem. I know how to fix this. I'm going to shut off everything else, necessitating you to stand up in this part. The break is the fix. The fight is the solution. Unless, even when it breaks, you maintain your cheresh status, your unwillingness to listen. I'll end with this. I had a phone call today. Fellow calls me up and he says, I'm feeling a little bit crazy. I don't know what to do. What's the problem? Tells me his wife, you know, they had a couple boys, and his wife, unfortunately, she really, really, really wanted a girl. I said, okay. And, you know, he said, but she feels very guilty. You know, maybe you could make her feel better. I said, okay, let me talk to her. She says, Rabbi, I feel terrible. I have 2 kids. I know there's people that don't have kids. I know there's people that don't have healthy kids. I have 2 kids, but I really wanted a girl. And now I have this boy and I'm angry and I'm upset and I'm thinking to myself. And then I get upset about why I'm upset. And like, how could I be upset? It's not fair. It's not right. I feel horrible. I feel like I'm a person who doesn't appreciate what Hashem's giving me. I feel so terrible about it. But then I actually want the thing again. What should I do? I feel so terrible. And I said to her, could you just stop? Just stop for 1 second. Just stop. Is it a normal thing for a woman to want to have a baby girl, a daughter? It's a normal thing. Is it a normal thing to be grateful to Hashem for the things that you have, for the children you have? It's a normal thing. Is it normal to feel bad about the fact that you don't have something that you want? And then to feel bad about the fact that actually wanting that thing kind of makes me seem ungrateful. I said, actually, this kind of sounds pretty healthy to me. And you know what else it seems? It seems pretty authentic to me. Because you know what a very religious person who is inauthentic might do? They might say, whatever Hashem sends is for the best. Meanwhile, they're torn up inside. That's not how they feel. That's not what they want. You honor me with your lips, Hashem says. But the relationship, it's not real. It's fake. You're saying, thinking, acting the way you think you're supposed to. But that's not real. Feeling like you want it, perfect. Feeling bad about the fact that makes you seem like you're ungrateful, perfect. You know what the only problem is? You're running around in circles, and at no point could you get out of this cycle. But if you just calm down and realize, if you took it away from this exact example, you want to get a nice pocketbook, great, no problem. You know your husband is struggling a little bit with the parnasah, okay, great. So you feel bad, so you're not going to ask him. But you feel bad that you want it, even though, All normal things. You know what you do? Let the thought come in, you let the thought go out. My friends, the nature of the brokenness of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is Hashem was saying to us, what we have is beautiful, but it's not real. You're spending all this money to get a korban in the temple, but the temple is broken. The korban is broken. The pig coming over the wall, that wasn't the Romans, that was Hashem. Saying that at a certain point, bringing a fake korban, this is what it looks like. That's what the Mishnah means. There were 5 things that happened to our forefathers. Because when we are fasting on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, we are in the mistaken mindset of the person who says, I can't believe I got a flat tire when I went to shul. This happens to me, and this happened to me, and that happened to me, and that happened to me, without any willingness to take ownership. Because there's one last gematria of 508, which comes from Shavur, Cheresh, Salachti. The last one is when you recognize that this did not happen to you, and you take ownership over this. The numerical value of 508 is also gematria ba'alut, to own something. And something can simultaneously be under your ownership, even if it's not your fault. Child feels like you're ignoring them. It's not true. You're not ignoring them. Are they wrong? I see children shaking their heads. Why are they not wrong? That's how they feel. And the craziest thing is about feelings is that feelings are facts. They're just not facts when you're trying to figure out a factual scenario. But if someone is telling you, I feel hurt, I feel ignored, I feel, they're not lying. The problem with us and the way we relate to broken things is that we are unwilling to take ownership over it. And in our unwillingness to take ba'alut, we enact our cheresh, we enact our inability to hear. It's okay not to have been perfect. It's okay to have made a mistake. Lots of people make them. You know who? Everyone. Accepting that, recognizing that a conversation about something for broken is the step towards being in something that is fixed, is the way we shift this Mishnah from a fast day where it's ir'u et avotenu, it's happened to me, to a recognition that I made this happen. Hashem should bless us to be able to have the courage and the confidence to be able to put the relationships that we want with our children, with our spouses, with our friends, with our people, with Hashem, to put it over and above whether or not we feel like we were right. Because when that happens, suddenly anything is fixable. Zaku Baruch.